Welcome back to the show, y'all. The 2025 baseball season is underway, and the Aggies started with a nice sweep of the Elon Phoenix. And we saw a little bit of everything in the opening weekend. We saw some of the early struggles, some of the early, humps to get over in game one. We saw a weather game. We saw a pretty good pitcher go up against our solid batters in a game where I think they felt a little bit of pressure, but then we saw a lot of what we'd gotten used to offensively. We saw some decent pitching. We saw some guys getting pitching action for the first time in their Aggie career. We got a little bit of everything in opening weekend. But more than anything, you got the wins. You got them under your belt. You got live game action under your belt, under the new regime, under the new coaching staff. And a lot of familiar faces got themselves back onto the board. And the much anticipated team, well, we have evidence now. We see what the 2025 baseball team is kind of shaking out to be in the early portions of the year. Early jitters, early success. We saw it all. Thank you guys for being here. It was an enjoyable experience this weekend. We were live for 2 of the games. Thank you all for joining on that. As you guys know, I'm a football and a basketball guy first. I'm learning baseball on the fly with you guys. You're going to see this in real time, which is why I'm choosing to do these shows live. I thought about pre-recording these, but I want to do them live because I want to bounce ideas off of you guys, get information from you guys, because I know we got a lot of hardcore Aggie baseball fanatics in the chat today, which is why I'm opening up the calls. If anybody wants to call in, the call-in link will be pinned in the chat in just a second. We'll do that a little bit later in the show. I'm going to give you guys my takeaways from the weekend, which are going to probably be similar to your takeaways. I'm going to go off the chat. Anything that you take away from the game, you put into chat right now. We'll bring it up in the second segment of the show. I'll highlight your comments. We'll expand on some of them. Maybe I already talked about them, and we'll just confirm them. We'll go through all of them. I want to hear everything there is to hear because we got all the information you could want early in the season. We had questions about first base. We saw Binder up start all 3 games, play all 3 games. We were wondering about catcher. Pretty good Sunday for one of the catchers, one of the 2 that played this weekend. We were wondering how TK2, Terrence Keel II, would slot in place of Caden Sorrell. And that might just have been the highlight of the weekend if you're looking at individual players. So, guys, let's do this. It's going to be a Sunday show. It's a new show for the channel. It's a new time slot. I see we have about 22 people in here. We'll see how the show does. I mean, we'll try to make this a regular thing. We get evidence on the weekend. We recap on Sunday, just kind of reflect on what we saw. And I think this could be a pretty good time slot and show for us to kind of just, talk ball on it Sunday night. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Again, call-in link is pinned, and throw in your takeaways from the weekend into the chat. I see James Ellis in the house. Good to see you. Love the way TK is playing as a freshman. Yeah, man, that's one of the biggest takeaways of the weekend. I mean, how do you not play the kid? We'll talk about it in a second. Bo, good to see you. 2 grand slams to start off the first series. 2 mercy rule games. I think Michael Early era has begun great. Yes, it has. He got the crystal baseball to end game 1, his first win of his head coaching career. Good vibes, good stuff coming out of opening weekend. Noah 2 Wavy, good to see you. James asks who's the next victim. It should be McNeese on Tuesday, and then Cal Poly next Saturday, a game I'll be at on Saturday in the wintry conditions. Yes, we have a winter game next week, and it's going to be low of 27, high of 42 next Saturday in College Station. That'll be interesting. We saw weather affect game 1. Noble Guy, good to see you. BTTS, got a feeling Sorrell's going to be rested a tad longer, expected with the showing of TK this weekend. Indeed. HBTK is in fact a dog. See, everyone's just buzzing about TK this weekend, man. He's a guy that speaks really well in pressers. Obviously has a great head about him. Obviously he's an Aggie legacy. He's a former football player. Brings a lot of stuff to the table. We'll talk about him in just a second. Had some just insane stats this weekend. Had a really, really solid at-bats this weekend. Just incredible. Good start to the season. A lot of room to grow, but explosive lineup too, says Noble. Thomas Life, good to see you. Jonathan, beat the hell out of McNeese State. Yes, sir, we will. This Tuesday. And then Noble Guy, James Ellis. Let's see some familiar faces. Good to see you all in here. Appreciate y'all joining in. Bradley Hanson. Friday was an outlier. Yes, it was. Felt like that was the case. Cannon Torres, good to see you, man. Matt Dickerson, John Peroni, Mr. A&M. Happy for TK Jr. He will be good. So happy. And that's right. Noah 2 Wavy's cousin is TK. All right. I'm going to go ahead and give you my quick takeaways from the weekend. They're probably going to be very similar to what you saw. Again, I'm a fan just like you. I just happen to have this platform to bring us together. So if you want to add to what I'm saying, if you agree or disagree with anything I say, please let me know. I want to feed off of you guys in this show. And again, we'll get into the calls at the end. I see Cannon Torres waiting. We also had Aggie basketball this weekend. This will be a baseball recap show, but Aggie basketball's in a really freaking good place right now. What a time of the year, man. Next Saturday, you potentially have like a top 7 basketball matchup in Reed Arena. And then we're going to walk on down to Bluebell Park and watch Series 2 of the 2025 Texas A&M baseball team. I mean, what a time of the year it is for Aggie sports. It's so great when these two of the big 3 sports are playing really well. Oh, and by the way, softball is also playing really well. Just a really, really fun time to consume Aggie sports. But let's kind of start with the big picture, and I hinted at it. We all saw it. Friday was a bit of a scare. It didn't feel great through the first 5 or so innings. We were just kind of waiting for that dam to bust. A little bit of a pitcher's duel early in the game. Ryan Prager versus their ace pitcher who, has professional upside as well, and that's something you knew going into the series. And in hindsight, I think the way that game went down kind of makes a lot of sense. Again, you have that solid pitcher who did a really good job in his start. You had weather conditions, heavy balls, thick air, pretty cold weather. And probably the most significant factor there was that this was the first game back after a very eventful end to last season, as well as a very eventful offseason. I don't have to tell you guys about that. I think there's a little bit of jitters, a little bit of pressure, a little bit of tension, and I think we saw that. I think we saw that with some of the at-bats. I think we saw that with some of the defensive mistakes, maybe a couple of hitches and a couple of throws, just a couple of, mental lapses. And I don't know if that stuff should have been unexpected. And some of that stuff did persist through the entire series, especially defensively. It's early. And we'll talk about some names and some potential shuffles. But I just want to emphasize that it's very early in a season. And if you're going to make mistakes, this is damn sure time to make mistakes because you have time to improve and find rhythm and, quite frankly, find your lineup, find your who your guys are, and you have a hell of a lot of options to pick from. Even more so now after some of the big names this weekend or big performances this weekend. TK2, Galloway had a great Sunday, but you finally broke through later in the game. I think 6 innings when you broke through, and this was one of the questions we had going into the year. Were they going to approach their at-bats with the discipline, the patience that they did last year? A very, very patient offensive team last year, really trying to work up pitch counts, really trying to just be willing not to chase balls, take a lot of balls. And I think that's what kind of shone through at the end of that game 1, and you saw it the whole weekend because you scored your first 2 off of walk RBIs, and your third one was a wild pitch for a run. And then finally, Blake Binderup, broke through with the homer, and that was really good to see. Blake made a couple of mistakes defensively, but he got the big homer. Obviously, he's a big bat. From all reports, he was one of the hottest bats going into the season through camp, and I think we saw a little bit of evidence of that, but that's going to be a contested spot because you have Bergevin right behind him. And then you have this something called Terrence Kuehl II out in right field playing for Caden Sorrell. So you got some options there, but Binderup did show up at bat, especially there in the first game where he didn't really have much going. But after they got that one under the belt, 7 homers from that point forward, 3 from Jace, including the grand slam. Gavin Grahovac got one. Schott got one. Galloway got one on Sunday. Of course, Binderup got one on the Friday game. And then Caden Kent got the opening weekend started with another grand salami of his own, something that seems to be a little bit of a tradition in Bluebell Park now. It seems to be his calling card. Just get a grand slam, Caden Kent. That's what you do. But all the OGs homered this series. They all showed up. And I think we kind of, anticipated that going into the year. But what really made this team really encouraging and exciting, even more so than the guys you had coming back, all the familiar faces did had their moments. It was the others. It was the back end of that rotation, the back end of that batting lineup. And that's where Terrence Kuehl II was, in place of Caden Sorrell. How do you not play this guy? I mean, if he continues what he did this opening weekend, of course, if you're going to be patient about, mistakes defensively, you kind of got to let things play out for the positives as well. But I think he bat 500 this weekend. 3 RBIs. I think maybe, was this weekend? I'm looking at some stats here. Let's pull up some stats. This is the season stats thus far. And yeah, Terrence Kuehl bat 500 this weekend. 3 RBIs. Solid play at right field. I mean, as far as just breakout guys, this is your earliest prime candidate of guys who are making a name for themselves early. And we just thought, okay, this is valuable playing time for Terrence Kuehl. This is what you want to see for a young player. He's not the long-term solution probably this year. He has a big future ahead of him in the coming years. He's a freshman. But now, you didn't keep this up. I mean, Gavin Cash can play first base. If Binderup doesn't, kind of find some consistency, you can move guys around. Maybe you have to find a spot for TK2. It was a damn encouraging performance. And again, really good stuff out of right field from the kid as well. You had some good stuff from the catching position too. You had several candidates of guys that could play catcher this year. I think it was a little surprising to only see 2 this weekend. We didn't see Jamal George start Game 3. I thought we might see someone else start Game 3, but they went back to Galloway Game 3, and I think he showed why. Game 3 stats. Let's pull those up for Galloway. I know he had the homer. I think he had 4 RBIs today. That's the back end of your lineup. That's your last hitter, and you're getting it from Keel. And Caden Kent bats 7th, I think. If you're going to get that from the back end, the bar for pitching gets even lower. And transitioning into pitching now, it wasn't bad. I see a little bit of panic about the pitching staff, a little bit, not too much. A couple of blurbs here and there on Twitter. And why am I basing my basis of reality off of Twitter? But Prager went out and did his job. 80-plus pitches, though, but he did his job. What did he give up? I think it was like a .8 ERA. Patton today, showcased his ability coming from Long Beach State, 0.6 ERA, just solid starting stuff from these two. And then Lampkin, a little bit of a slow start, but ended with 9 Ks, and I think he got better and better over the course of his 80-plus pitch outing. I think we're so set with these starters right now. We're in such a good place amongst the starters. Now, relief guys, we'll see what happens here. I think we got some really good stuff from Weston Moss. He had a couple of scoreless innings. Freshcorn, couple of scoreless innings. You got some options there, and a couple of young guys got their first pitches out this weekend. You had the opportunity to do so in 2 mercy rule games, or whatever they called today's rule. It was like a time constraint situation. They decided just to end the game. I don't think it was technically a mercy rule, but they just kind of handshook ended the game. But again, with the bats you're getting, specifically what you have in your OGs that are returning. I'm just going to call them the OGs, the guys that are back from the run last year. And the early reports on some of the bats you got this weekend in Galloway, Keel, a little bit of Binderup, a little bit of Gavin Cash. We haven't really seen the best of Hensler, but we know it's coming. You just see it. It's going to happen, and it's been there for his last 4 seasons. The pitching bar is a little bit lower than it would be otherwise, and I think you're in an absolutely fine place pitching right now. Now, got to talk about the negatives, and that was fielding the ball. You just saw a few mental lapses. You saw a Cash kind of outrun a grounder. You saw Binderup, kind of flub up a fly ball right there, kind of right to him, a windy condition game. Saw a couple of outfield things. You saw a couple of hitches in what would be probably sure outs, kind of from third base, shortstop, second base at times throughout the game or throughout the series. And, it's something to keep an eye on. But again, the caveat for this whole discussion is that it's so early. It's so early. You let them find the rhythm. You let them work things out. And I want to give credit to Elon. Scrappy at-bats. They were making contact with balls. They were working our pitch counts up as well. And they had a hell of a pitcher to lead off the weekend. So, guys, those are my rookie takeaways. Again, I am no expert. I invite any of you guys to call in. The link is pinned in the chat. I think the biggest takeaway is Terrence Keel II. I think you found yourself a weapon right there, but you want to keep nurturing it. You want to see what it can become, and you sure as hell don't have to rush Caden Sorrell back. You didn't have to in the first place, but you really feel even less pressure to do so, by way of performance by TK2. And, man, I would love to hear where you guys think it could happen. All right, let's check in with the chat, guys. Any takeaways you have, put them in the chat right now or else call in. And if not, we don't have any call-ins. It's a new time slot. I don't expect we'll have a ton of calls tonight. We at least have one. We'll end the show there. But let's get into some of your takeaways from the weekend. Let's start with Noble Guy. Offensive philosophy remains the same. Defense needs to be looked at and pitching to develop. Starters look sharp for the most part. Absolutely, offensive philosophy stays the same. Very patient, very disciplined. Run those pitch counts up. 100% Noble. I think we went through all that stuff. James says we use a lot of young pitchers to see what they got and try to give them some experience. Absolutely, as you should at this time of year. I'd be interested to see what happens on Tuesday. I think Weston Moss, based on Early's post-game presser, was the intended Tuesday starter. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday. Be interesting to keep an eye on that because they had to burn Weston. And I don't know if they're going to want to play him again. It didn't sound like they wanted to. Defense wasn't ideal. Let some of those young pitchers down. Need to clean that up. 100% they do. 100% they do. It'll be a work in progress. I'm not, throwing Binder up out or anything like that. I'm not ready to make the shuffle just now. But you're already seeing early options opening up. Because, again, Gavin Cash and Bergevin can both play that position. And you can move Terrence Keel around in that outfield, man. And, of course, you're happy to have Keel at bat right now. BTTS, lots of guys playing new positions for the first time. It should clean. So that's a very good point right there. That's a very good point. Friday was an outlier. We'll score 10-plus runs in just about every game this season. Pitching will determine the ceiling of the team. That's fair. That's fair. And if you're scoring 10-plus runs a game, again, your pitching requirements are a little bit looser there. But, of course, like we saw in Omaha where the field gets huge, it really becomes more of a pitcher's duel. So you got time. You got time. They had a pitcher named Mustard. The fans were yelling different condiments between each pitch. That was great. That was great. We got a ball 8. I think we got to ball 8 on Friday. That was fun. Electric atmosphere. I just want to say the brand of Aggie baseball has never been stronger. The characters, the personality of the team, the storylines of the team, the atmosphere, the sheer performance of the team. I mean, how can you not fall in love with this sport and this team? It's awesome stuff, man. It's such a pleasure to watch this year. Jonathan was there, and he was yelling ranch when ranch dressing. That's a ranch dressing grand salami if I ever seen one. What else you guys saying? Mr. A&M is happy for TK. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Bo says fielding needs to improve for sure. The hometown kid was great at plate game 1. Absolutely, he was. Young Alpha Cobra. Tuesday's game is going to be so cold. It's going to be in the 30s with 20 to 30 mile per hour winds and rain showers. Are you serious? Tuesday's cold? We just got cold games all week coming up. More weather conditions, so I think maybe expect some lower scoring games this coming week. We're in Texas. This is not going to last, so it'll just be a quick blip in the radar. Miles Patton looked elite today. Man, he looked like Prager. The comparisons that the commentators were making was got a lot of what Prager does a lot of what Prager does. Doesn't really throw the absolute heat, but, just quality pitches. He put up Prager numbers, too. I mean, it was a phenomenal, encouraging showing from your Sunday starter. Our basketball team and baseball team, BB. Both BBs are rolling right now, John. Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I threw a quick mention. Of course, I don't have the time to follow all three closely, but I know softball is tearing it up right now, and it's great to see. Refreshing broadcast booth, finally not rooting for their team. Yeah, they were local guys. They were all A&M affiliates, but it was a great broadcast team, and they were breaking down the game perfectly. It was a pleasure to listen to those guys. They did a great job. I'm pulling for TK. Watched his dad in high school. He was a goat. Wonder why the baseball game wasn't on the Zone app the last 2 games. I don't know either. That was interesting. It was on ESPN Plus. Yes, it was. Opposing pitchers are going to struggle with our lineup. I mean, there aren't any holes. There are no holes, and every batter will keep the pitchers pitching. So it's going to be high pitch counts and a ton of pressure. I mean, we knew that, though. That's what this team's strength was always going to be. I think there's still some, upside questions about the relief pitchers. Let's see that play out in a close game. That's who knows when that will be. We kind of saw it in game 1, but it was weird conditions. But the bats are going to be there, man, and they're going to keep doing it. I go to Texags, go to the baseball board, find the game thread. Okay, talking about how to find the game. Yeah, we had a problem finding the game this weekend. There were a lot of errors in the field. Batting wound up solid, but we've got to clean up fielding. 100%, man. 100%. Patton was cooking today. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. There were scouts today looking at Patton. Of course they were. Of course they were. I think Patton will be better than Jones. Maybe. Jason Kelly doing great with the pitching staff. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Let's just see it play out, though. Let's see it play out. Of course, everything's early. I for sure think the bats are here to stay. Let's just see how the rest of it plays out. We got time. Tuesday won't be cold till 10 p.m. Okay, it won't be cold right away. Want to keep Bindi in the lineup. If you switch someone to play at first base, maybe rotate Bindi and shot. Yeah, you have plenty of options there. Just walked in. Welcome to the show, Christopher. Welcome to the show. Bindi's defense has been a liability. Move Cash from left to first. Yeah, the thing is, I don't think I'm ready to bail on Bindi just yet because we've heard through this whole camp that Bindi might have been our best batter. He might have been the best in camp, and that's a really, really high bar. So that offense is going to carry him to quite a bit. I don't think we should bail on him just yet. But I think you definitely keep an eye on it. You definitely keep an eye on it. That's where I am with the situation. I really like a lot of what Bindi does. But again, if this is a trend, you have so many options, you might have to do it. But not yet. Not yet. All right, guys. If y'all don't have any more takeaways, we'll get right into the calls. Again, that call-in link is pinned. I have one person waiting. No one else calls in. We'll call it a quick show. And I think Cannon might have some basketball and baseball stuff for us. Cannon, you with me? You're on with Drew. How you doing, man?
Doing well, good sir. How you doing?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. Did you catch up with all the baseball action this weekend?
I did. There were so many things on this weekend, sporting wise, that it was hard to keep up.
It was, man. Dude, Saturday was a glorious sporting day. I mean,
It really was.
you started the day, of course, with that big win versus Arkansas. Arkansas was a hot basketball team. A&M did what they did. They did what they do. They leaned on them, and they got better throughout over the course of the game. It was back and forth until maybe the last 8 minutes of the game. And then the basketball team, along with all the other Aggies in Aggie Nation, are we Aggie Nation? No, Aggie Land. I shouldn't say Aggie Nation. That's not a thing. In Aggie Land, migrated over to Bluebell Park. All the basketball team was in the stands hyping up the crowd. And,
You love to see it.
you love to see it, man. You love to see that Saturday. Then, of course, we had some hockey stuff. We had Stephon Castle in the dunk contest for those Spurs fans out there. Just a lot of great stuff, man. So where do you want to start with it, Cannon?
Well, let's start. Let's recap the 11 a.m. basketball game. We'll move on to baseball.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So I just want to know your early thoughts on how it looked from the television. But
Oh, you were there, huh?
I was, yeah. Just we had a couple of unruly Arkansas fans cheering every time somehow their team fouled.
Yeah.
Was really funny to see.
Yeah, I always go to the Jerry World football game. I've liked doing that as long as I've been an Aggie. I actually enjoy that venue. But Arkansas fans, I don't know if this is unique to Arkansas or if this is just any like neutral side or any encounter with opposing fans. They're chippy, man. They're really chippy, and
Really are.
it can get nasty. I've seen punches thrown at those games. But as far as my observations, they did a really good job rebounding. They're a strong rebounding team, and they showed that. And I think that kind of kept us at bay throughout most of the game. But I think our defense and our toughness shown through at the end. You had a really good performance from Zurich Phelps, man. Zurich Phelps is really able to be himself next to Wade Taylor. I think we saw a little bit of a lull there. And then I think he's finally found himself now that Wade is back. And I think we're kind of seeing a tandem grow there. And it's not just scoring, it's doing a lot of things. But I think my kind of unsung, or maybe it's just outright hero of the game, was Andy Garcia, doing all sorts of things, scoring inside, scoring like we haven't seen before, willing to shoot his shot. I know Buzz, he has a green light. He's going to shoot a shot, keep defenders honest. But I think we just saw a classic wear you out Aggie basketball performance, and you just closed the game really strong. What did you see? How was the atmosphere in there? What was the game like?
Well, that first half was really the tale of how Aggie basketball has been first half.
Yeah.
You're going to see, hey, we're going to feel out the opponent. We're going to try and do what we can to stay in this grit and grind game.
Yep.
But really, once that 12-minute mark in the second half was there, you saw a lot of just, hey, we found it.
Yeah.
It's time to lock in on defense, and they really held their hat on it that second half. So it was really fun to see.
And we kind of saw a very similar thing versus Georgia. I think was that Tuesday or Wednesday. They were down. I think what was it? They were down 15 plus halftime, first half. Locked in defensively, just took over the game. I mean, this is just what the team does. I think they wear on teams. I think they maybe take a little bit to find their rhythm in what they do, and that's defensively and toughness and rebounding. And time again, man, doesn't matter how much of a lead they give up, doesn't matter how much they're down, they play their best late. And that's going to be really critical once you get into these big games down the stretch. And you can't get in too big of a hole versus some of these stronger offenses we have coming up, but it's really encouraging stuff. Should be a top 7 ranking this week, and you should see Tennessee still ahead of us, and I think we'll have a top 7 matchup in Reed next Saturday.
I'm anticipating it. It's going to be electric here at Reed.
I know, man. I think that student section will show up for that one. I think the student section left a little bit to be desired this Saturday. Not a ranked team. You got opening weekend of baseball, weather stuff. This coming Saturday, I think Reed will absolutely be rocking. But let's transition into baseball. Did you make it to any of those games, or just keeping an eye on them?
I just kept an eye on him. I was really trying to tune in for that at least Saturday game, because that was going to be the marquee. Like, hey, we felt it out on Friday. Let's see how we do on Saturday, and then we can go from there. Because I knew by Sunday they were going to figure it out.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. There was definitely a filling out process. There was definitely weather conditions on Friday. Definitely a good pitcher you were going up against on Friday, and that all showed. But I think a lot of the classic strategies of this team and the strengths of this team also showed in that game. That patience, that taking walks, taking balls, that's what won you the game. And then you just kind of broke the dam through on Saturday. And that started early with Jace, a couple of early homers by the team. And yeah, man, a lot of familiar stuff from some familiar faces. But I mean, TK's too. I mean, you got good stuff from Galloway. You got some good pitching stuff from Patton. I mean, there's a lot of encouraging stuff. And I think we pretty much maintained the status quo this opening weekend. I think pretty much hit an opening weekend on the dot with what you would expect from a team like A&M to do. Maybe just a little bit of trials and tribulations early, then finding yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's going to be a trial to start off, even with a new regime, even if that coach is coming from your previous staff. But it's really, how does Michael Early want to move forward?
Yep.
So
Yep. Absolutely, man.
we'll see on Tuesday. I will say, not seeing Stewart
Yeah.
out there the first time with his shoulder injury that's been reported, it was kind of not a letdown, but you really do want to see Stewart out there.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that, and I think that would have made the relief, lineup look a little bit better had he been able to go, because I think we saw what he can be. He performed pretty well late last year. So we'll see, man. We'll see as these games get closer, as the competition heightens, how this relief staff looks. But a lot of encouraging stuff. Well, all right, Cannon, any closing thoughts from you today?
Well, I was just gonna get into at least two of our potential basketball recruits that were there at the game on Saturday against Arkansas.
Oh, nice. What did they see? What'd you hear from them?
So the first one I have, if people want to look up, we're
I'll pull them on the
A&M's
screen.
yeah, if you can pull up Dejan Hall over there at Legacy Prep.
All right. I'll pull them up while you talk about them.
Yeah, so Dejan Hall just got done with his unofficial visit here. He said, hey, visit went great. Staff was awesome. They got to answer a lot of his questions for him and his parents, and he loved the environment, and the visit was just overall great in his mind. The film session that they got to break down with him, they got to show him clips from A&M's games and then clips from his own games. They like his style of play with how A&M plays.
Nice.
And he just had a really, really fun visit down here, especially after that second half.
Yeah, looks like a long, potentially defensive-oriented point guard. Is that kind of what we gather from him?
Yeah, absolutely. He's all three levels of scoring is what this guy is. He's top 20 point guard in the class of 2026. Really, really, a lot of teams are checking in on him. Wisconsin, Ohio State. He's got some more visits that he may do in the future. Other than that, he enjoyed the visit down here.
Very, very nice. And who's the second guy?
Yeah, if you want to pull up Trevon Clark or Trey Clark.
All right. Where's he from?
Trevon Clark, I check my notes specifically.
Wow. San Antonio, Wagner?
Yes. So Trevon Clark out of Karen Wagner was not on my radar as much this year, since a lot of LSU fans have been saying, hey, we love this guy. And it was really not a surprise visit, but really, really interesting to see how his visit went. He said it was a great experience. The coaches were nothing if not great. Got to talk with a lot of the assistant coaches, especially Coach Walden. He said he definitely loved his experience, and we're hoping to get another return visit back from him.
Very nice, man. Yeah, that's going to be critical, obviously. I think this is recruiting is always the lifeblood of a program, but specifically this year for basketball, you're losing a lot. You're losing a lot of pieces. I think maybe 7 out of your maybe 9 or 10 rotation guys are going to be graduating or moving on. So
At least.
Yeah, at least. So obviously portal hasn't started yet, but high school recruiting is going to be huge. Hopefully you can get Payne and Solo Washington back. But where are you at kind of transitioning? I mean, we still have a lot of basketball to play this year, but while we're talking about it, I mean, where are you at in this transition? I know there's words that Buzz is going to get courted to other schools. Where are you at with all that stuff?
I mean, as of right now, A&M fans should just look for the foreseeable future. Hey, make this tournament. We'll worry about it when the off season comes. Buzz is not going to let this affect his current season.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, I mean, if you can get the eyes that the offseason can bring with a deep run, that can really bolster a very critical recruiting offseason, man. So hopefully that can happen. Hopefully they keep getting better and better as this year winds down. And it looks like they are. I think they are. But you got some real good litmus tests coming up with some of these games. So it'll be really exciting to watch the end of the year. Well, all right, Cannon, tell them where they can find you. I appreciate the call tonight.
Yeah, you can find me social media, Twitter or X especially, at Torres Cannon. My DMs usually are open, so if y'all have any questions, feel free. I do a lot of posts on football and basketball recruiting for Texas A&M, although I'm not affiliated with them. So really just like to see how our athletics move on from this point. So if y'all like what you see, continue following.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. Good stuff from Cannon. Good reporting on the recruits, man. You take care.
Gig 'em.
Gig 'em. Later. Good stuff from Cannon as usual. All right, if we have no more callers, we'll wrap things up with the chat. Any other takeaways from the weekend, basketball, baseball, you want to talk about? Then we'll get out of here. We'll keep this typically about an hour and a half show Sunday nights. Maybe however long we can go, we'll go. I don't anticipate this to be a super long show on Sundays. Just a nice little recap of what we saw, kind of gather in the series as a whole. Enjoy being here with you guys. And I'll be back for Watch Party on Friday for the Cal Poly game. I don't know if I'll make it on Tuesday, TBD on that. But I'll be at the games on Saturday, so if you guys see me, say what's up. Bindy's built like a first baseman, 100% he is. Long, can scoop the ball out. I mean, yeah, he has exactly what you need. It's just making some of those blunders. We saw it. It's early. I'm going to keep saying it's early. It's coach early, but it's early in the year. I like Bindy's bat in terms of power, 100%. Who's worse, Archie fans or LSU? You know, I've met a couple of good from each. I would say because of my face-to-face encounters, I've had worse experiences with Archie fans. It gets violent, man. I actually bumped into an Arkansas fan's wife in the post-game exiting the stadium. That's always a mad dash. And he yelled at me, got in my face, "You bumped my wife!" And I just ran away. Angry piggy. But yeah, things like that happen. Paint is a problem, low paint. Phelps is so fun to watch. Phelps plays with so much energy, man. I love that fast break alley-oop where he got the steal, threw it to Manny. Manny throws it back to him for the alley-oop. Phelps brings the energy, and Payne brings the pain, man. Payne's one of the better players on this team, man. What a addition and what a development this year. He became a starter after Solo went down, and the Coleman-Payne starting lineup has just made this defense and this rebounding even that much stronger. And Solo is bringing so much energy off the bench right now defensively. Really awesome stuff. And it really starts with Farrell Payne bringing that energy and bringing that just big man ability, man. Just such a reliable scorer or foul drawer inside. When your offense kind of sputters, you can just dump it down to Farrell. It's great stuff. Yeah, Chris, we were talking about before you came in. They were calling him Mustard. I think we had someone here who was at the game shouting out Mayo after he gave up the grand slam to Caden Kent. Just great stuff, man. Bluebell Park at its best. I love that Payne dunk where he just drove on the guy, got to the rim, and just rose up and flushed it. That was over the 7-2 guy, wasn't it? The 7-2 Slovenian, wherever he's from, that was great. Evan Oschenbeck's family was in town Saturday to support the team. You love to see that stuff, man. And I love the support from some of the former guys, like Mrs. Montgomery still supporting us on Twitter. Love to see that stuff. And shout out Braden Montgomery. I don't think the team necessarily is going to be hurting for him. You'd love to have a guy like that, but I do miss watching that guy play. He was a great one-year Aggie. Fresh corn looks like a young Lincoln. I don't know how to say it. Ultimate takeaway. I need football season to restart. That's what you need. This just made you want football even more. What up, Jeb? How good is Cal Poly? I don't really know. Hit that gig button. Yeah, if y'all can hit the likes on the way out of here, that'd be great. What's up, Eagle fan? Softball's up to a great start. Absolutely. Absolutely. Miles was nasty today, man. That's such a development. Your Sunday guy. I mean, we pretty much felt like we knew what we had with Prager and Lampkin. And, of course, Lampkin had a kind of a rougher start, but then he ended with 9 Ks, and he got better and better over his outing. But if you're going to get that from day 3, from your Sunday starter as well, you're in such a good place, man. And those guys had a bunch of their pitch count was really high, and I think the coaches even pulled them earlier than maybe you would in a different kind of atmosphere, a different kind of game. So you got a lot of gas in that tank right there, and those 3 can take you far. Definitely had bad experience with Archie fans from Dallas. All right, guys, need to catch up on basketball and baseball. Dude, I'm so happy to be an Aggie right now consuming this basketball and baseball season. We're really in a golden kind of, I don't want to say era. It's not long enough to call it an era. But we're really like in this nice pocket of just A&M success starting, I guess, like a couple of weeks ago, and basketball is really showing to be a consistent force, to baseball starting now. We got March Madness coming up, got the SEC tournament coming up. We just are going to get to know and learn this baseball team even more over the next few weeks. It's going to be a very, very fun, enjoyable viewing experience. So I hope to be alongside you guys throughout this journey over the next few weeks. We got some really good Aggie stuff coming up, and we'll keep hitting you with it here, guys. Thank you so much for being here tonight on the Sunday Recap Show. I'll see you guys soon. Maybe Tuesday. Keep an eye on it, but for sure Friday. I'll see you guys soon.